Hi, I'm John DeArmond with the Coquille Valley Sword Group, and today we're going over the next of the figure 8 cuts. So, let's begin. The next of the figure 8 cuts is the most difficult for beginners to get a handle on, in my opinion. I've heard that it's called the vertical figure 8, but I use that term to denote this sort of narrow figure 8 that we first introduced you to. Instead, I'm going to refer to it as the Mobius figure 8, as the cutting edge continuously faces the direction it's going. There's no sort of roll off. So, to do this cut, we begin with the sword on our lead side. Our hips move, we cut down and through. Then, as we bring our hips back, we bring the tip of the sword towards our body, towards our knee. As our hips reach the opposite side, we make the other diagonal of the figure 8. We turn our hips back, the sword returns to its central position, and we continue. Down, away, towards the knees, back. Alright, I'll go ahead and show that from the side to help you kind of understand the dimension here. We start up by the ear, hip turns, we make that lead side cut to the offside hip, tip comes in towards the knees, hips turn away, we cut up in the opposite direction from the lead side hip to the offside shoulder. Circle around, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. This cut may seem quite challenging at first, but once you get the hang of it, it's really not very difficult at all. The angles that seem awkward, specifically that diagonal cut up and away, seem awkward almost entirely because of the direction that you're doing it to. If you change your body position, right, and face the other way of the target, right, as to what would be at 90 degrees, this motion doesn't seem particularly awkward at all, right? But having that sort of relation to the cut as you make it changes our perspective on it. Now, just as with most of the work, there are variations between sort of familial teachings as to how this should be done. I like to do, there are two main ones, and I like to do them both because I think that they develop different focused skills, right? The first one, the one we demonstrated first, focuses on the cuts as they cross, right? Bump, bump, right? Bump, bump, as I move through. The other way of doing this is focusing on the top and bottom cuts, right? So, wide, wide. And doing the work in a much more, less sort of vertical, more horizontal way. I learned the horizontal one first, but really I think that in my training, in my sparring, I've encountered applications for the vertical one more often. I tend to pick up this last part and end with the first part as a counterattack, as a response to somebody else's motion. And that works for me. Now, this can also be done backwards. But I don't tend to do it backwards very much. Not for any particular reason, I just don't. I probably should, right? Train better. This cut is simple. You'll see it a lot in Flankerovkov. If you know what to look for, you'll see the elements a lot in Shashka fighting, in Shashka sparring, but as isolated pieces, right? Specifically that end cut, right? Whether it's used directly as an attack, whether it's used as a carry, which is one of our sort of three main defensive options, or whether it's actually used as a crude Spezia, one of our other defensive options. Mosquito season. So, in many styles of fencing, everything is put into a box, right? This is a parry. This is a cut. In the Russian system, this is not so much the case. Instead, they focus on fundamental body motion and then take that body motion and apply it to the situation. So this may become a parry similar to ukenagashi, right? Or it can become a cut, or it can become a feint, or on and on and on, whatever the situation sort of requires that I adapt to, right? And that's the sort of key benefit of the Russian method, is its adaptability. Because it's not so narrow. It can be used very broadly. This is not to say that other systems are not adaptable, just that it's one of the things that the Russian system is particularly noted for. I think that is about it for this Mobius cut. We will move on to, I think, one last figure eight that's used for positioning. So, in the next video. So, as always, if you want to understand this work, you have to pick up a sword and go train.